Joe, you've said that compliance does not equal security. Compliance does not equal security. Why do so many organizations still treat compliance as the finish line rather than the floor?
Yeah. I've said compliance does not equal security, but security does equal compliance. And that I've learned over my career and just sort of better understanding everyone else's perspective of their information security posture. And my thought on that has a lot to do with my time at MasterCard, and we were investigating all of these merchants that were breached. And we would have this list that would go on for, it seemed like miles. You could just scroll down this list and every line was another merchant that we were very confident was having some sort of breach issue because there was all this fraud on all of the cards that happened to go through their point of sale system. And every single person that we worked with, every single company that we worked with that was breached had a PCI compliance program. Every single one of them was compliant. And so we'd get in there and we'd work with them and we'd be very curious, we know this is happening. And they were like, this can't be happening to us. We have our PCI compliance stamp, right? We have our report on compliance. I just had a QSA into my environment and they went and they did all of the things that they do and they told me I'm compliant. So how is it even possible that we have a breach event right now? And that's where, the stars kind of started to align in my head. We're like, well, obviously compliance isn't good enough because they weren't wrong. We could see their report. They'd send it over to us and we'd look like, well, sure enough, you're compliant, but we can find one thing here or there that, your auditor may have missed. And now, you're in a breach situation. So the issue that I always had with just kind of ruling your program through the lens of compliance is good enough is that it gave this false sense of security to the people that were not in the IT teams or the people that were not thinking about cybersecurity all the time. The CEO or the executive team would get this report and go, okay, cool. I don't need to continue to invest here, right? We're good.
Right. We're good.
They would be able to then redirect what could have been or should have been investments into hardening or their infrastructure or doing some of the more basic security things. They'd be able to move that money towards other strategies that they had instead, because again, they have this compliance report. And that was really, I believe, the way that the retail industry was, going back 10 or 15 years, was they'd get this report and everyone would think they're good and they'd move on and they'd be able to do other things with that money. And I think, 2012, 2013, which was this huge spike in payment card breaches across the United States. And at that time, Europe had already moved to EMV transactions, which is that chip and pin that is now very common. But, the United States was slow to adopt that. So that's where all the attackers were looking at, was United States businesses and, breaching that payment card data. And, more and more merchants and companies were recognizing that even though I've got this compliance report, I've got some pretty big problems that I still gotta figure out.
So, Joey, do you think it takes like a large breach, or is it something else? Is it shift in the way that leaders look at their risk to get some of these companies to shift from that compliance first thinking to that truly risk-based mindset?
Yeah, I think it's definitely gotten better. If you go back again to 2012, it really, for a lot of companies at least, it wasn't until they had some sort of catastrophic event where they're like, oh, shoot, we should probably start listening to our security leaders and the IT team and put some investments elsewhere.
What do you recommend to other security leaders to help those executive teams avoid that false sense of security when they get a clean audit report?
Yeah. So much of it comes down to relationship and having a rapport with the executive team so that they know you, they trust you.